and it reads, "Which way, America?" And we're asking the question, which way? Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton? Now, this evening, we have a power-packed, action-packed, the delegate-rich states of Texas and Ohio were the big prizes for Democratic presidential hopefuls Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton on March 4th, and presumed GOP candidate John McCain was working diligently to unite Republicans at final call press time. But beyond the campaigning, beyond the endorsements, beyond the rallies, and beyond the rhetoric, huge challenges await the next president of the United States, as does a question: what will it take to put the United States back on course? America faces some major dilemmas. This one: the U.S. prison population is at an all-time high. According to a report for the Pew Center on the states, 2.3 million Americans, or 1 out of every 100 adults, is in prison. Incarceration is costing the country billions of dollars, let alone the loss of human potential. Now, we can stop right there and just ask the question. Which one of these wonderful candidates will help to alleviate the question of the increasing prison population here in America?
You know, I'm really not sure.
For real?
I'm not sure which one of them would alleviate the problem. I can say that my judgment is that McCain certainly would not respond in that manner. I'm not even convinced that Hillary would. I'm not clear about what her policies are, her politic is around the prison industrial complex. I'm not clear about what Barack's policies are around the prison industrial complex. But what is clear is that prison in this country is big business, and that for 8 years under the Bush administration, it has really become privatized. And so what happens is, once we have decided that prison is big business, that means that you then have to invest in crime.
Right.
You have to.
Absolutely.
And so I guess my hope is that Barack Obama would not be cut from that cloth. But I know that the money that gets attached to that endeavor is substantial.
Right.
And so I'm really not clear about which one of these would really be intentional about breaking through that, because it's a huge problem.
Right.
It's a huge problem. Not just the fact that prison has amounted to corporation, but also that in order to have these things be in existence, we have to have crime be on the rise.
Right.
Because that feeds right into this notion of prison as big business. And so any one of these candidates would have to really shirk that notion.
Right.
You know, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure who would do that.
Right. And the interesting thing about it, because I watched a little bit of, you know, of the campaigns and the speeches, because you can't help but see it. It's all over the news. It's everywhere. And this is one of the, well, I won't say one of, I will say this is the most, if an election can be described as exciting, this is the most exciting election of our time, at least as long as I've been alive and cognizant of what's going on politically. But the only one who seems to even speak towards that, and he has to do it in a real low-key way, is Barack Obama. And I remember him saying in a speech that we have to stop our young men from going into these prisons and have them go into college, you know what I'm saying, as an alternative to prison. But, you know, of course, he couldn't even narrow it down and specify who he was really talking about, which, of course, he's talking about black and brown men, because we're entering into prisons, of course, disproportionately to white people. But Hillary Clinton and John McCain, that's really not even an issue that they bring up in campaign speeches.
That's true, but I just think, you know, and this could be my cynicism, but I also know that political rhetoric is, it's a smokescreen most of the time. It's intended to keep you off balance. I've heard Bush make statements about how we've got to, you know, do something about, you know, the rapid number of people going to prison and how alarmed he is at these numbers. But then he gives contracts to build more prisons.
Right.
You know, and so his investments tell the truth. His mouth is saying one thing.
Right.
But his behaviors indicate something else. Just like when he says we have to have peace, you know, but your behavior suggests that you're a warmonger.
Right.
So that kind of incongruence for me is just that dog does not hunt. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in this article, Brother Ashead points out many problems that America faces. And, I mean, she has so many that we can't even begin to number them. But he was talking about rising gas prices, be $4 probably by the end of this month. U.S. taxpayers are funding an unpopular and ill-conceived war in Iraq to the tune of an estimated $275 million per day. It's incredible. Then the country being on the brink of financial ruin, where the euro is outpacing the dollar, the Canadian dollar is outpacing the American dollar. I mean, and not to mention that America is not respected anywhere in the world. Everybody looks at her like she is what she is, which is very problematic to the world, to say the least. But in your view, just looking at these three wonderful candidates, do any of them have what it takes to turn the country around?
I have no idea. See, this is why these kinds of conversations just, they're hard for me. And, I guess I should just say this right now. I don't often engage in these conversations just because I don't fancy myself to be political, at least not in the way that it means most of the time when people say they're political. That, again, it's that smokescreen, that rhetoric, that trickery, and they talk you to death, and at the end of that long diatribe, they haven't said a thing. And so I'm very turned off by that mechanism. So for me, that question is a hard one to answer because, again, my cynicism is informing the answer. So I'm going to say what I usually say in this conversation. I think the machinery is broken, and the machine is the state. So for me, it doesn't matter who gets in that car. The car is still a hoopty. If I'm a good driver, does it change the fact that the car is a hoopty because I'm a good driver, or is it still going to break down on me?
Still gonna be a
right.
hoopty.
So I struggle with that notion. For me, you know, I'm one of these people that looks at Barack and sees something that I haven't seen in a presidential candidate in a while. In fact, not since the way that Kennedy was talked about and described. Having said that, though, I have questions about why he would even enter an arena like this. Is your judgment that you can really change the machinery? Because in order to do that, you've got to start from ground zero. You can't get in the hoopty and make it go any faster or drive any better. So you've got to change the vehicle. I don't know that he's going to do that. I don't know that that's even his wiring. He strikes me as a true believer, someone who really believes it can be better and things can be different and people can change and all of that. And I just don't have any evidence right now to support that the machinery is fixable. I think we have to disassemble it and start again.
And